So there's a method to make your own mayonnaise at home, and it's vegan. So why do you want to make your own mayonnaise at home? Well, I'll tell you why I want to make my own mayonnaise. So years ago, I looked at the ingredients on a bottle of mayonnaise, and it was weird to me. Mainly eggs and soybean oil, and some preservatives, some called EDTA, whatever that is. So if you don't mind eating raw eggs, then maybe you don't mind. But soybean oil, yeah. If you don't know about soybean oils and genetically modified organisms, GMOs, then maybe you need to look up a company called Monsanto and do some research. So over 90% of the soybeans in America are genetically modified, as well as corn, and that's why America is the biggest producer of soybeans and corn. Now, what's the problem with genetically modified organisms? Well, maybe you should do some research. There's a company called Monsanto, which originally produced these things, and this company also, ironically, was a company that produced a chemical called Agent Orange that was used on the Vietnamese in the Vietnam War, which caused a lot of genetic disfiguration. And to this day, there's still people over there who've got arms growing out where their legs should grow out of, and legs growing out of where their arms growing out of. Well, they created this Agent Orange, and they revamped the formula to create a pesticide, an herbicide called Roundup, which contains the toxic chemical called glyphosate. It's extremely toxic, but it's an herbicide, and it's used to kill, weeds. Okay, so genetically modified organisms, the GMOs that we have in this country, they've been altered so that they produce this toxic chemical in their cells, so that if insects eat them, they'll die, and that if you spray this Roundup pesticide on them, they won't die. They're immune to it. So essentially, the whole purpose of creating these GMOs is that you can, spray more pesticides on them, and they also have the pesticides in them. So for me, I think it's a bad idea to be eating this soy, corn. The four main ones are soy, corn, cottonseed, and rapeseed, which is also known as canola oil, which are the main oils that are used in restaurants when you go out. This is the cheapest oil because they're the cheapest because they're produced at large, because they can be produced at large because we have genetically modified variants. So farmers can basically spray this indiscriminately on their crops. All the weeds will die, everything will die, except for the Roundup, what they call Roundup ready crops, which are the genetically modified soy, corn, cottonseed, and rapeseed, which makes canola oil. They don't want to call it rapeseed oil. They want to call it canola oil. I guess it just sounds better for whatever reason. Anyway, so you can make your own mayonnaise, and it's quick. It just takes a little bit of preparation, and you're gonna need something called aquafaba. So what's aquafaba? That's what you're gonna ask me, right? Aquafaba is the leftover water after you boil some chickpeas. You can even soak the chickpeas and use that water. You might have to soak it more than one night, but if you boil it, you definitely got some aquafaba. You do have to use it when it's cool, so you have to put it in the fridge. But if you want to do it the quick and easy way, and you have a can of chickpeas, you can just use the canned water from the canned chickpeas, and then you can also boil it and then save the water after you boil it, and that's aquafaba. So aquafaba is kind of like an egg replacement. When you start whipping eggs and they froth up, and you can make meringues and stuff like that. Well, you can use aquafaba to do that, and it works really well, and it's a vegan replacement for like egg whites. So real simple. You get your chickpeas, pour them in a container, and you pour water over them. Let them soak overnight. And then after you're done using them, you boil it. You boil your chickpeas down. You use them for whatever you use them for. You save that water. That water is aquafaba. All right, so this recipe requires that, aquafaba. You're gonna need some kind of a neutral tasting oil. You might want to use like grapeseed oil or avocado oil. Any oil that has a strong taste, like sesame oil, is gonna just taste too strong. And you need some mustard. So that helps with the emulsification. So whatever mustard you have, mustard seed is recommended. But if you have like this mustard sauce, that's gonna work too. Any kind of mustard, Dijon, plain mustard, is fine. And you need some kind of blender or food processor. So I'm using this immersion blender. I've got it on Amazon. I got it just to make this recipe here, and I'll leave the link in the description if you want to buy it. Maybe you already have one. You don't have to use an immersion blender. You can use a food processor, but what you'll need to do is add the oil slowly. So you whip up the aquafaba, you get it to froth up with your immersion blender. You put the mustard in, you whip it up with your blender, and then you slowly add the oil. All right, so I'll put my chickpeas in the fridge until tomorrow, and then continue tomorrow. All right, we're gonna make our vegan mayonnaise with just a few things that we have here. It's the aquafaba that we strained from the chickpeas, the chickpea water. We have mustard. We use a little bit of that, and then we have a neutral tasting oil. I'm using the sunflower oil just because it's a cheap oil. So we're gonna put a little bit of the mustard in there. Blend that up. Make sure you blend this up first. Alright, it's important to make sure that you first blend that up first with the mustard in it to get it frothy before you add the oil. And then the oil, you're gonna add 4 times the amount of oil that you added aquafaba. And slowly drizzle the oil in as you blend. And it starts to get creamy. Not as creamy as stuff we buy in the store, but that's mayonnaise. I'm not gonna say it tastes just like mayonnaise. It is mayonnaise. This comes out perfectly. It's creamier. There we have it. Homemade vegan mayonnaise.